One of the most powerful politicians in the country, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, finds himself in the middle of two serious investigations tonight. The first is his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, specifically in nursing homes and long-term care facilities. And tonight, new details into allegations of sexual harassment and misconduct revealed in an interview with journalist Ronan Farrow.
Farrow, alongside our News Nation investigative correspondent Rich McHugh, uncovered cases of sexual harassment against another powerful figure, movie mogul Harvey Weinstein, documented in Farrow's book, Catch and Kill. Now, 8 women are now accusing Governor Cuomo of inappropriate behavior, allegations that he has continuously denied.
Farrow recently sat down for an exclusive interview with Governor Cuomo's first accuser, former aide Lindsey Boylan. And tonight he joined Rich McHugh, his colleague and friend, with details including how Governor Cuomo's team allegedly sprung into action to smear her afterwards.
Please lay out for us and our viewers the allegations that Ms. Boylan has come forward with.
So Lindsey Boylan really has helped to trigger a chain reaction that has now engulfed Albany politics and thrust Governor Cuomo's future into a whole lot of uncertainty. And that started with a series of tweets in which she said she had been sexually harassed for years when she worked as a deputy secretary in the New York state government and a special advisor to Cuomo. And, she didn't want to talk to journalists, Rich, when she came forward with those claims. And that left a lot of misinformation swirling around. It left her particularly, I think, vulnerable to efforts to discredit her. And it took her a long time to be persuaded that there could be a place in the conversation for some journalistic vetting. She has now done that with this story that we put out in The New Yorker. She talks about for example, an interaction where the governor had his dog come in and, he cracked a joke about wanting to mount her, she says. That was the word, quote unquote, mount. She talks about a really egregious, hostile workplace environment where people were teased a lot about their looks, about other personal things, where an aide was really relentlessly shamed for his weight.
You spoke to staffers inside the office who talk about meetings, about when her allegations first came out. They said, how are we going to deal with this? And they basically, I believe, they went and got her personnel records and decided to distribute those to reporters. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we're able to kind of, through this reporting, get inside the room and understand a little bit about what happened in Cuomo's team as Lindsey Boylan began to raise these allegations in December. They saw these tweets in real time. There's a kind of informal brain trust of Cuomo crisis communications advisors, composed of both some current aides like Melissa DeRosa, who's one of his top aides, and Rich Azzopardi, who is his current communications director. And also some former advisors like Stephen M. Cohen. We named those individuals. We obviously reached out to those individuals during the reporting. And we're able to trace how they and a number of other Cuomo advisors responded, which is they flew into action. There was a series of frantic calls to decide what to do. And the decision was made to leak Lindsey Boylan's personnel files, which included alleged complaints that she had been bullying to coworkers, that she had in particular belittled several Black women in the workplace. And Lindsey Boylan responds to those claims in a head-on way in this article. And she doesn't deny that she may have mistreated people in the workplace. What she does say is that there was not ever a formal HR process that could have looked into those in an adequate way, that she alleges the governor gathered material like this informally in order to use it in this kind of weaponized context. But I do think, regardless of what one thinks of that conversation and the underlying claims about her, it's important to note that this is someone who raised a claim of sexual harassment. And from the jump, that was covered not on its own terms, but against the backdrop of these complaints about her.
Recently, in January, I believe, the Attorney General of New York, Tish James, released reports saying that the governor's administration had underreported COVID deaths in nursing homes by 50%. And since then, in that time, we've now come to where 8 women have come and accused him of sexual harassment and toxic workplace, presiding over a toxic workplace. Where does this go from here? Is he going to remain in office, do you think?
It's clear that the political fortunes of the Cuomo administration have changed radically, as you suggested. It's clear that it's a precarious moment for him. And it's clear that a lot will ride on the outcome of now 2 probes that are ongoing, one by the state assembly and one by the New York State Attorney General, Tish James. And we'll see what additional information comes to light.
Some of the reaction online that I've read accuses Lindsey Boylan of doing this for political gain. What do you make of that?
It's not for me to defend Lindsey Boylan. I'm not an advocate for people I report on. I'm a reporter scrutinizing their claims. And, I told Lindsey Boylan that from the jump. You've seen me tell sources that. That said, I do think you're right to point out that this is a common genre of counterargument. Why now? Is she looking for publicity? Is this cynical? But I think that it's important to be skeptical of those kinds of counterarguments by default. Lindsey Boylan is someone whose political ambitions, I think as of now, have not necessarily been helped by her coming forward on this issue.
And joining us live now to discuss the allegations is reporter Rich McHugh. Rich, thanks for being with us live tonight. What was your takeaway impression from all of this? And does Cuomo politically survive? What's your sense of that?
Well, thanks for having me. The fact that Ronan is actually on the case right now is not a good sign for the governor, I would say, knowing Ronan and how he works and having worked alongside him. I know that there's a lot that does not make it into the final reporting. And I know that he's working hard to connect more dots. And I don't think that this is the last reporting that we're going to see from Ronan on the matter. When I asked him, is this the end of Governor Cuomo? He's reluctant to say, and I'm also a bit reluctant to say, but I think if you're looking at this and you're looking at all the coverage out there and you're seeing that there's these 2 probes going on and there's all these accusers and who knows if there's going to be more, I think the writing is on the wall for many people across America, whereas in New York, it's anybody's guess. There seems to be still a lot of support for the governor.
And what's striking to a lot of people is that a lot of this alleged behavior kind of happened in the Me Too era. So many things have been exposed over the last few years, whether it was Matt Lauer or Charlie Rose or Bill O'Reilly or Roger Ailes. This has now happened in the era where this kind of thing is making news, and some very powerful men have been toppled for this kind of behavior. Does this feel different, and two, that it happened after all these other awful headlines, that someone would still potentially, allegedly engage in this kind of behavior, considering the cultural shift the country's been living through?
Well, I think what you're seeing here, and what I found most fascinating about Ronan's story, is that the way they operated once Ms. Boylan came forward with her allegations on Twitter, instead of talking about whether to refute them directly or to apologize, etc., it was they gathered around, according to this report, gathered her personnel files to distribute those to reporters. And that's the same type of thing that we've seen in other, in our reporting on Weinstein and others. It's the same type of smear attack. And that to me says that, as far as we've come with Me Too, there's still a lot of work to be done if that is coming from the office of a governor.
Rich McHugh, thank you so much. Great interview, and look forward to seeing Ronan's article in The New Yorker. Thanks for your time.
You bet.